Hey everyone, this is Leanne from Of Love and Shiplap and the founder of Sublimation Graphics and Tutorials on YouTube and Facebook. Please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss out on any of our tutorials. This is another edition of 20-minute sublimation designs using an asset from Creative Fabrica. We are going to be working in Affinity Designer today, as you can see, but this entire process can also be done in Affinity Photo. So if you're using either of those softwares, it will be easy to follow along. If you enjoyed this tutorial and would like to learn how to use all of the many different tools of Affinity Designer in depth, be sure to check out our Affinity Designer Digital Graphic Design Masterclass for Sublimation. This is a beginner-friendly, learn at your own pace, on your own schedule, 100 video hour masterclass. It is built in a progressive format where everything you're learning builds on previous lessons and incorporates fun design challenges with opportunities to win prizes throughout. This program is built for your success and comprehension with sublimation designing, and I guarantee that you can do it no matter what level you're at or what age you are. Our masterclass also includes one-on-one email support if you get stuck. You can find that link in the video description, and you can use the code SUBTHAT to save $30. Now, we're going to be making a fun Halloween tumbler design today, and the idea here is that you can create this great background using a clip art element that you have licensed. I have licensed this pumpkin, this jack-o'-lantern skeleton eagle broom one from Creative Fabrica. It's a whole pack of elements, and I did link it in the video description for you if you are interested. If you don't have a membership to Creative Fabrica, I highly recommend it. It is my go-to source for fonts and digital papers in particular, and occasionally a good clip art element when I'm doing something like a quick project like this. You can sign up for $1 for the first month by using the code that is below, or using the link that is below. So go ahead and click that. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I'm just going to exit out of this first because we're going to rebuild it. Let's start by clicking on File and New to open up a new document. We're going to be using a skinny Tumbler sized document here. You can notice that I have this saved and it's set to 9.25 inches by 8.15 inches. You can set that option all here in your layout and then just click that little plus sign to add it to this presets tab, and you can right click on it and choose rename to give it a specific name. You can see I've got quite a few here for different types of projects that I do all the time. We want to make sure that our color format is set to RGB/8 when we are designing for sublimation, only sublimation, and our color profile set to sRGB IEC 61966-2.1. This is the most current and up-to-date color profile for RGB/8 as of 2022. But if you're using a Mac, the older previous format profile, Adobe RGB 1998 does tend to work a little bit better just for Mac computers, no one else, just for Macs. So you may find that that is better for you. That's just because of some of the color discrepancy issues that are very common with Macs. Now, also remember that any ICC profile you have for your sublimation printer is irrelevant to your document setup. That is in your printer properties, has nothing to do with setting up your document in any software. These are two completely different things serving two completely different purposes. I'm going to make sure I have a transparent background, and once we have all of that set, we can hit create to open up that new document. So I'm going for, this spooky theme type of background, with my goal being that I can interchange different clip art elements as the focal point to create a different series of tumblers that people can use as is. And also, if I wanted to add text, like maybe you want to create a background like this and you want to offer them personalized or monogrammed for your own sales purposes, I want to make sure that I have space to do that. So I'm going to start with just a solid black background, and we're going to build on top of that. So I will select my rectangle tool, come up to my top left corner until I see the little yellow dot and the green and red access lines. These are called snapping guidelines. You can activate them by clicking on this magnet icon here and clicking that drop-down menu and checkboxing all of these in these lower sections. Do not checkbox show snapping candidates. So when you get up on that corner, you'll know you're right on the corner when you see that red line and green line and the yellow dot. And you're just going to click and drag all the way down to the opposite corner until you see those markers again, and you know that you have been set. We're going to come right here to our context toolbar, and where it says fill, we're going to set it to black. And where it says stroke, we're going to choose this little circle with the line through it for no fill because we don't need a stroke on this. So this is going to be our base background. So we can just click on that to rename it, and we'll call it our base background layer. Next, I know I want some type of a moon in the middle. So let's go ahead and grab our ellipse tool. So this is one that looks like a little circle. If you don't see it, click on this little tiny white corner right here, and you will see all of the different shapes that are available. But your ellipse tool should appear separately all on its own. That's just like the default for the software. So I'm going to click and drag to size this a reasonable size. So we can just see the outline right now. I'm going to come down to my transform panel, and based on the size I have made it, I'm just going to average out here so that we have a perfect circle. Now, when I size this, it looks like I aimed for about 6.5 inches, knowing that my tumbler circumference is roughly 9.25 inches. That's the size of this design because that is fairly close to what the size of most tumblers are. For 20-ounce tumblers, there's always a small variation in the height and the diameter. So it can vary up to 1/4 of an inch across, multiple cases of tumblers, which is why we just kind of go with an average, and then we measure our tumblers before we print our design so we can make sure it all fits properly. So with this in mind, I don't want my design to be taking up all of the space. Like 2/3 is more than enough for the focal point of my design, thinking about how it's going to fall on that tumbler. So I'm going to go ahead and set this to, I'm going to go with 5.5. So it's 5.5 inches, just so that it's not overpowering my tumbler. It's going to be visible when we're looking straight on the tumbler, but not overpower it. Let's go ahead and come to our color panel now and sort of give this a moon color. So we want to have the filled circle on the top, and then I'm going to come over into my orangey yellow area, and I'm just going to kind of drag this towards the white but the black at the same time. So I'm just moving that little circle that you see there. This is adjusting our saturation and lightness as we move it around. And I'm just looking for a shade that's moon-esque. Okay, it's a little too peach. Let's try. All right, I'm going to go with this peachy shade that we've got here. I actually want 2 layers of this. So let's go ahead and right click on that layer and duplicate. We're going to start by selecting the one below. We can click on it to rename it. This is our Moon Glow. And with that layer selected, we are going to start by adding a little bit of a stroke. So you want to have your stroke panel selected. We're going to choose that solid line style. And I'm going to add a little bit of stroke weight, but we want this to be more on the yellow side, but like a dingy yellow. So I'm right about there. And I'm going to choose to align stroke to outside. That's the last one where you see align. And I want to just adjust it so I can see a little bit of it around the edge. Just about that much is fine. With that layer still selected, I want to click on my effects panel or the little FX at the bottom of my layers panel. Keep in mind that my document layout is, or my interface layout is how I have it set out. So your panels might be in different locations. Usually all of these are somewhere over in this sidebar. If you are ever not sure, can't find something, come to View, Studio, and choose Reset Studio first. That'll reset to the default for the program. And then if you still don't see things, make sure that you have whichever panel you're looking for checkmarked here. For example, I don't need Glyph Browser, so I can get rid of that one. But make sure you have whichever you would like checkmarked here. And then if it is checkmarked, it means it's somewhere on your interface. You just need to find it. Also make sure that you always have Show Context Toolbar and Show Toolbar checkmarked and Show Tools. Sometimes people inadvertently turn those off, and then their interface is missing all of their tools. Okay, so back to this. Click on your layer effects. We are going to choose Gaussian Blur first. It's the one at the top. We are going to increase this all the way up. Well, not all the way, about all the way up. So notice how we got this like nice halo around our moon. That's what we want. And then we're also going to select Outer Glow. And whoa, let's decrease that intensity. We're going to increase that radius some, and we're going to decrease that opacity. So I brought my opacity down quite a bit. My radius is right about in the middle, and my intensity, I brought that down quite a bit. So I'm at 15% for my intensity. Really, we're just looking for a nice glow. Don't worry if it doesn't look exactly perfect. When we bring it all together, things look a lot better. You just got to trust the process. You want to make sure that you check mark Scale with Object at the bottom. That way, if we resize our moon, all of our effects here are going to resize proportionately. And then just click Close. Now let's come up to this other ellipse here that we have. This is our main moon. So we can actually just click on that and rename it Moon. Our moon needs some texture. As it is, it's not very moon-like, right? It's just a big circle. So I'm going to zoom in so you can see a little bit better. We are going to click over to our pixel persona. That's with these little checkerboard icon that you see right there. We will then select to add a pixel layer. That's this checkerboard in the bottom of your layers panel. And then you're going to click on that, click on the icon, hold your cursor down, and then clip it inside of our moon layer. You can clip it by just holding down your cursor and dragging, and then when your cursor nose is touching the name and you see that semi-transparent rectangle underneath that goes like a little more than 3/4 of the way, that's how you know you're in the right spot. And when you release it, you will see it's a new group, and there it is, it's clipped inside. So you want to have that pixel layer selected. You want to select your paintbrush tool, this one that looks like a paintbrush over here. We're going to come to brushes and we want to choose textures. This is a default option. The textures, these come with the software, so everyone will have these. I will be using some brushes that don't come with the software, but you can always improvise and use other brushes that do based on what you have. So let's see, I gotta create some texture here. So let's see. All right, I'm going to start with this Grunge Pattern 02, this second one here. I'm going to come to color, and I'm going to come to my beigey shade that we're using there, and I want to go just a little darker. Yeah, I think that's good. Ooh, that might be a little too dark. Okay. So let's lighten it up just a little bit. All right, and I want to make this nozzle pretty big. So it's at 559 right now. You can just slide it up some. You can also use the bracket keys on your keyboard. It's a little too gray, so I'm going to bring it back towards the brown. All right, so with this textured brush 02, I'm actually just going to sort of add some, I'm just going to click. I'm just going to sort of click and add some texture near the edge. I mean, we've all seen like clip art images of the moon, so you know that like texture that you get, that's all we're trying to add right there. Then we're going to come back to our brushes and I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and I'm going to grab this brush pattern 03. This is a bit softer, so I think this will work for overall texture. Now we don't want the same shade, so I'm going to bring this more towards my brown and up so that it's just a little bit darker than my base color, and we can of course give it a line to see how it looks. I can't even see it, so it's not a good shade. Let's move it down just a little bit so that we get a nice darker shade in that triangle. All right, that we can see a little bit better. I'm going to go just a hair more. Okay, great. I'm going to use my bracket key to make this a little bit bigger. And I'm honestly just going to kind of fill the whole moon. Like I just kind of did like an S-shaped swoop around it because all we're trying to do with that is just add some texture so that our moon doesn't look so flat. And when we zoom out, you can get a nice good look. Our moon is coming together. That's all that we really needed. We just needed to give it just a little bit of something so that it looked a bit more moon-like. Now let's go ahead and import our clip art so we can kind of get that sized and get a reference point for how everything else is going to play into our design. We will do this by coming to File and selecting Place, and then choosing your clip art. There we go. This set, which I have linked, is from Creative Fabrica, of course, because this is our 20-minute sublimation design tutorial using assets from Creative Fabrica. And this one has some really great items in here. I'm going to go with this pumpkin jack-o'-lantern skull, whatever. This one's a good one. I'm going to click and drag to resize that. And I want this to be pretty big because it's going to be the focal point of my design. So I'm going to resize that so that it's nice and big, and then I'm just going to center it on my document, sort of eyeball it. So I definitely want it centered across the vertical axis. See that green line? The horizontal axis, though, because there's a little bit more dead space down here than there is at the top, I'm going to kind of eyeball that. If you want precision, you can always crop this using the vector crop tool. You just come back to designer persona with the icon, choose that vector crop tool, and then bring in this bottom boundary so that it is up right up to the edge of that skull. And then it'll be a little bit better when you resize it, or I'm sorry, when you recenter it. There we go. So I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so we can kind of see how this is coming together. And good. I think that our clip art size is good. I'm happy with it. All right, let's go back over to that pixel persona if you had exited out of it. And we are going to select to add another pixel layer. We want to make sure this one is at the top. Perfect. I'm going to be using the cloud brushes for this because the cloud brushes are perfect for making Halloween backgrounds. They give like a nice spooky vibe and it just works. So I'm going to select that paintbrush tool. I'm going to come to my color wheel and I'm going to set it all the way to white. Then I'm going to come to brushes and I'm going to choose my cloud brushes. These are linked below. All the brushes that I am using in this quick video are ones that I use all the time. So all 3 brush bags I highly recommend. That's how much I use them. Sorry, so I'm going to choose my cloud stroke brushes for this. And I don't really have a specific one. We're just going to sort of see what their nozzles look like. All right, that looks like a good one. It's kind of small. So I'm going to increase the size up pretty big. And I'm literally just going to one click and then come down at the bottom and do a second one. I don't mind if it overlaps my clip art a little bit. That's kind of the whole point. I just don't want it to be overpoweringly covering it. We'll put that one kind of off to the edge a little bit. And yes, okay. So as you can see, it didn't really take much, but just adding just a little bit of this cloud texture, and you can come in with like a second shaped cloud as well, have a little diversity, but just adding a little bit of this cloud texture took this from flat back to a little bit spooky in seconds. It took like literally no effort at all to make that happen. It's one of the reasons why I love these brushes. They are a really great set. Okay, I also want to add kind of some like sparkly, not sparkly, but like some stars, some Halloween star vibes. So I'm going to create another pixel layer. So we'll choose add pixel layer again. Again, that's that little checkerboard icon. I want to keep my paintbrush tool. I'm going to come to color and choose neon green first because that's Halloweeny, but you could do purple or whatever you'd like. And now I'm going to come to my Xenon brush pack. If you've taken either of the Affinity Masterclasses, you know that this is a brush pack I love. I'm going to come to where it says Xenon Galactic. And I'm going to start with Pandora. This is like a nice, like the stars kind of have a glow about them. I'm going to increase my nozzle size. Again, I'm just using the bracket key, the ones that look like sideways staples on my keyboard for quick and easy, but you can adjust it right here as well. And then I am just going to sort of click around. I don't want to just click and drag because see that I'm going to get a lot of concentration and I don't want that. I don't want them in any specific spot, but I just want to sort of click them around and let them fill in how they fill in. Okay, I think that's perfect. Just enough to add a little bit of glow here. And let's see. I am making sure I didn't get too heavy over top of my moon and clip art though. Notice that I stayed on the edges. That's my goal there. Then I'm going to come down and I'm going to choose the Helios one. This is like my second favorite one. And then I'm going to come to color and this one I'm going to make orange. Because, you know, orange is Halloweeny. Again, I'm going to increase that nozzle size. And this one I am going to just kind of click and hold just because it's a bit smaller. Notice how I'm going around the edges. I'm kind of trying to keep a lot of that concentration around the edges, not so much on my clip art space. Now, if you do find that you end up with one like that little green one right there that seems like it's impeding your design, just select this little eraser, this erase brush tool, come to brushes, scroll up to where it says basic, choose just one of these solid ones. The difference is just the size of the nozzle. And just brush over it and it will erase it. So I just cleaned that up off of my layer really quickly. And now I'm thinking I want to add some spooky branches. So I'm going to create another pixel layer. So I'm going to select add pixel layer, my little checkerboard icon on the bottom, and then select my paintbrush tool. And I'm going to be coming to the Frankentoon Concept Master brushes, one of my other favorites. All three brush packs that I'm using in this are literally ones I use all the time. So if you're looking for my recommendations, these are some of them. I'm going to select the one that says Frankentoon Concept Master, and I'm going to choose some branches. Now, you can choose to use an SVG branch that you might find on Creative Fabrica or a similar site. I happen to really like these brushes, so this is what I'm going to use. I didn't even bother to seek out some other types of branches. Now, this one right here is actually called Spooky Branches, so I think that's great. I'm going to select that one, and I'm going to set it to black, and I'm going to increase the nozzle size. I'm just going to sort of overlay it and do one click, and you can see we've got our spooky branches there. And I'll also do some on the other half. Notice how I'm kind of off the edge, right? And then I am going to come back over to brushes. I'm going to choose one more. I like this one that's sort of like a branch coming in. See how it looks? So I'm going to increase the size some. Maybe just like one of these. Awesome. I don't really think we need one on both sides. I think that just one kind of gets the point across. Now, the last thing that I want to add is maybe like a lightning like background, just a little bit more to the background to give a certain aesthetic. So I'm going to choose to add a pixel layer one more time. And I'm going to come to that paintbrush tool. I'm going to set my color to white for this. I'm going to come to brushes and I'm going to come to the textures ones. This is, again, these are default. And I'm going to choose this grunge pattern 04. This is my favorite for something like this because it literally looks like cracked concrete or lightning, depending on what you think about. So I'm going to make this really big. I'm at 3100 pixels. And I'm just going to do like one click, maybe a second one over here, maybe another one down here. Basically, I'm just going to do one on each corner. And now what I want to do is I don't want that layer on top of everything else. I want that layer behind my moon. So I'm just going to click and drag that in my layers panel, making sure that it is in line. All of your layers should look like they are stacked in line. You shouldn't have any that are indented. If they're indented, they're clipped inside. But I brought that all the way down so that it's right above that base layer. And just like that, we have our completed Tumbler background. Now, this is super versatile because from here, you can simply select your clip art element and choose replace image. And you can choose a different one. So let's say I just wanted to do the bird, the crow. I guess it's a crow, right? I could just do the crow and resize it. And I would have another design ready to go. You can also choose to make the main clip art element a bit smaller. Like maybe I want to put it down in this corner here or over here. And I want to add some text like trick or treat or someone's name or a monogram. The idea here is that you kind of have endless opportunities of what you can do and what you can put on that moon as the focal point of your design, whether that is clip art elements that you have licensed properly, like this one from Creative Fabrica, or if you want to license some cool Halloween fonts and add names and things like that. So most importantly, before we're done, make sure you go to File and select Save As to save your document. That way you can come back and play around with your layers some more and you can swap out that clip art element. And also when you want to export it, go to File and then Export. You're going to make sure you have PNG selected and choose Export. Your File Explorer will open and you can give this a name and save it so that you have that PNG layer to print and size for your own projects. So always remember, File and Save As is going to save your Affinity document. File and Export is going to allow you to export that PNG file type. So there you have it. Quick and easy Halloween Tumbler idea that's really versatile. You can take this background and, like I said, swap out these elements to create different Tumbler designs. You can also add texts, popular slogans like 'tis the season to be spooky, spooky babe, Halloween, whatever. Like people who love Halloween, there's a million Halloween phrases. Or you can, of course, always do something like monograms. Lots of versatility, just under 20 minutes to put this whole design together. Quick and easy project for you to try out. So if you give it a try, be sure to share it and sub that. And thank you so much for joining us for another episode of 20-minute sublimation designs with Creative Fabrica.